Several Utah Utes are starting to make a name for themselves in spring ball. Who are they? We're going to discuss on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time listening to this show, make sure you like and subscribe. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be on today's show by Elijah Grayson Murray of Athlon Sports, who covers all things Utah. And Elijah, we got to see another spring practice, and I think what was encouraging to me is just seeing everything coming out. There are several players who are starting to really step up, stand out. For a little bit more about Nate Johnson, just like we did last week too. But Dampier starting to improve as well. This episode, we're talking everything about the reports that are coming out from spring ball. And I think that where I want to start is in an unlikely place. Elijah, I want to start with Hunter Andrews. It sounds like he's the guy who showed you guys some things today. What did you see from Hunter?
Yeah, Hunter, Kyle Whittingham said that he is not going to be a full-time tight end. He is still going to be used as a tight end running back hybrid. And then from, the other players, they're saying that he pretty much is like Brant Keithy 2.0. He's
That's
an
crazy.
absolute...
That is a crazy comparison, like lofty, very lofty comparison for a guy who came in as a linebacker, was a running back last year, and is now a tight end.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember exactly who said it. It was one of the three player interviews that we had today. And he said that he's pretty much like Brant Keithy. Praised his size and his athleticism. And I mean, today we got to see him, a bit in the pass game, and he's going to be a big part of this offense this year. I think, he's going to be a utility piece, kind of like Nate Johnson, although Nate Johnson's obviously a different kind of utility piece. I think Hunter Andrews is kind of the Swiss Army knife of the receiving room and the running back room. It seems like he has really made strides moving to the tight end spot, and I obviously still believe in him enough to be serviceable at the running back, spot as well. And so to be compared to Brant Keithy, who before, he got injured was, considered better than Kincaid. That's impressive. And if he can continue his trajectory, to end spring camp and then, heading into fall camp, I think he has a genuine shot to be, right next to Landon King as a key piece of this offense,
which would be phenomenal. And it's monster that Andrews, just incredible that he's able to continue to change and switch positions and still impress to this degree and level. It's remarkable. Elijah, whose performance in the media viewing session that you got to see today, media gets to see about a little bit portion of practice. Performance would you describe as remarkable today?
For me, Creed Whitmore really stood out today. I think,
Mississippi State transfer receiver.
Yes, Mississippi State transfer receiver. He's similar build to Ryan Davis. And so I expect them to both be contending for, the slot spot if we're going to be realistic. But I think today he was really involved in the offense. There was multiple times when he was Dampier's number one target, and there were multiple times when he caught the ball and, made something out of it. And so Creed Whitmore, he really impressed me today. We didn't get to see much of the other wide receivers outside of Ryan Davis, who also did pretty good, but I mean, he's been doing good all of camp. And so, from last practice to this practice, I'd say last practice, Ryan Davis was the key wide receiver, but this practice is Creed Whitmore. And so it's cool to see that they're kind of, trying to figure out what's best for the wide receiver room. Because Whit said that, that position is probably the one that's up in the air the most right now. And, they'll probably have to go in the portal to kind of shore up the position. But I think Creed Whitmore is definitely going to have an impact if he can continue his, wedging himself into some more reps.
Which would be big. That's a guy who didn't really do much with Texas A&M, Mississippi State last year. So if he come into Utah and be a guy, that would be huge. So Whitmore, Davis, but there's another receiver. According to Josh Furlong of KSL Sports, of KSL.com, he said that Darren Zipper had some really good flashes today and is getting open on X. That's what Josh Furlong made a point about too. Do you think Zipper has a chance to be this team's third receiver over guys like Tia? And there's a lot of these guys that are still jockeying for position, as we highlighted. But has Zipper shown you something too so far?
Yeah, Zipper, I mean, speed kills, right? And so he's always gonna have, he's always gonna be a factor. And I think if he can, mature in his skill set and grow into more than just a speedster, like actually catching the ball and making something with that speed other than just burning defensive backs, I truly think that he could be one of the starters if this current wide receiver room stays the same. I think he could definitely be one of the current starters. And if I'm going to name my top three right now, I think Otto Tia and Zipper out wide with Whitmore and Davis switching off in the slot. I think that makes most sense to me because then you kind of have a really, really nice mixture of size, speed, and just quickness. And but yeah, no, Zipper. He just like Whitmore, he had a big impact today, which we didn't really get to see last practice session. And so I definitely would agree with Furlong that he's making moves just like Whitmore. And I'm excited to see because I'm really high on him. Speed
Yeah.
speed is something that Dampier will definitely be able to take advantage of. Just breaking the pocket and Zipper can obviously find an open space faster than any defensive back can. And so I think if they can continue to build the relationship, if he can continue to mature in his skill set, I think he has a genuine shot to be one of the starters this year.
You mentioned Tia. Is he a guy who's showing things, or are you just giving him that top spot based on the Utah State successes? I often credit him. I just say, hey, I think he's his team's best receiver because of what he's done so far. How's he look so far in spring ball?
For me, it's based on his Utah State pedigree so far. He's been in the reps and stuff, but we haven't seen too much of him. And I'm partially thinking that because they want to see what they have in their other wide receivers, like trying to figure out how the rest of the room in the pecking order will shape up. And so that's what I'm chalking it up to. We know Tia is an impressive wide receiver. And in the first practice, he was much more involved, at least from what we were able to see. And this time it was more so like Whitmore and Zipper. But I personally think just based on what he did at Utah State and also just his size and his ability, it makes sense for him to be the wide receiver one unless they go like fishing in the portal and they get someone who can challenge him for that spot and then drop him down to the number two spot. I don't see how anyone will really challenge him for the number one spot out wide.
It's cool that Utah has so many talented pass catchers in this room, all that could take shape. We'll talk about the tight ends a little bit later and several other individuals who stood out. We still got to get to Kyle Whittingham's comments as well, too. And most importantly, Devon Dampier, quarterback position, and other quarterbacks, too. We actually saw a clip online of Isaac Wilson making a nice pass to Landon King downfield that has me fired up. I'm, once again, someone who's not selling his Isaac Wilson stock. It didn't go well last year. Shouldn't have been on the field. Is he going to be as good as maybe we once thought he would? I don't know, but can he still be a productive quarterback at this level? I do believe that still. So what to make of that? But more importantly, right now, the president is Dampier. So what do we see it from Devon Dampier? That's what we're going to be talking about in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House, whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers extra support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person and trade pros looking for that extra edge. Their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone lines, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now, it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/DM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com today. Once again, promo code SH5, 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Elijah, Devon Dampier is obviously going to draw all of the headlines when it comes to Utah football because he's the new quarterback, and quarterback gets the spotlight. What did you see from Dampier in the second practice?
I'm going to tell you something right now. He has a rocket arm. This dude can zip it like I've never seen. And he's improved even from our last practice viewing. He's improved so much. He seems a lot more comfortable, and just his mobility, especially in his arm. He really has let it loose on some plays, and it's just great to see. There was one play where he has so much zip on it that Whitmore almost was like, "What the heck is going on here?" And so that once you can get that harnessed in, and once you can make sure that zip can be used in its proper context. Like you don't want to have a 60-yard bomb be thrown the same as a 5-yard slant route. And so I think that's probably the next step in his development. As he continues to grow in his relationship with the wide receivers. I think obviously that's going to be a big thing too, since they don't really know the hierarchy of the room at the moment. And so I've also chalked that up as well. But man, these players love him to death. He is just everything is advertised. I'm super excited to see him grow as his camp nears the end. And I can't wait for fans to see at the 22 Forever game what we've been able to see so far. He is, and also I would just like to say when he's throwing on the run, it is so beautiful. I've never seen a college quarterback throw like in person throw that beautiful of a ball on the run, and just the way that he can manipulate the defense with his speed and with his arm. He's a true dual threat quarterback.
And that should have everyone incredibly excited hearing about how much he's already improved. And we know what he was able to do last year in New Mexico. So feels like big things ahead for him. But the backup quarterback spot is also a key one for Utah. Elijah, what other quarterbacks did you get to see today?
Today we got to see Isaac Wilson, and he made some good plays, as you mentioned, the one to Landon King. I'm really excited about Jamarian Ficklin. We got to see him on a drive. He's a freshman out of Texas State, and so we got to see him on a drive. And he's a left-hander, so it's a bit weird to see a left-hander in person. You don't get that's a rarity nowadays. But he is just as mobile as Dampier. He kind of has a similar skill set, which I think is partially why they are giving him reps just to see how he fares in this offense. As a potential backup, because we don't obviously know how the QB2 room is going to shake up at the moment. But no, he ran some plays. He did some RPOs. Like he is just very versatile for a freshman. And I think that he has the ability to be someone who is a genuine successor to Dampier once, he goes pro. He has a skill set to do so for sure. And so there's always going to be competition. The room is stacked with young talent. And so that's going to be exciting to see how that develops over the years. But Ficklin, man, to see him on that one drive, it was pretty impressive for considering he's only a freshman.
Yeah, that has me incredibly excited. That already as a freshman showing those flashes. I'm always going to be a little trepidatious and nervous with freshmen because of just what we went through with Isaac Wilson last year. But love hearing that for sure. That Ficklin is already popping a little bit in some regards too. Was there anyone else on the offensive side of the ball that really stood out to you? We'll get to the tight ends as I mentioned at the end, but especially in the backfield. Like, what do we see from the running backs today, Elijah?
So today we got to see a lot of Devin Green and Nakari Rogers, which is
UNLV
good.
transfer and New Mexico transfer.
Yes, yeah, and so we got to see those two, especially Green. He was in a lot of reps that we got to see, and both made the most of them. They're both breaking from runs from what the offensive line is giving them, and the offensive line. I mean, let me just say they are as advertised as Coach Whittingham has said. And I think the running backs are going to feast off of the lanes that they create. And, we didn't get to see much of Daniel Bray as we did last week, which I mean is kind of expected. He is, a young buck who still has a bunch of experience also in the room that he's trying to compete with. But to see Rogers and Green out there battling for assumedly the RB2 spot, because it seems like Wayshawn right now has the top spot locked up. I think it's good to see how their skill sets all differ. Because Rogers is really just the power back, and Green is kind of a mix of the two. So I was really impressed with both of them today. And Green especially, I didn't really know what to expect from him, but he could really push Rogers for that RB2 spot if they keep keep it up.
From players to coaches, Kyle Whittingham is not someone that gives out praise easily, but he was very complimentary of Elijah Scooby Davis and said that, hey, he gave him one of the spots. That's not easy to do. We knew Snowden had one, felt like Elijah had the other, but to hear him say that is highly encouraging. And Blake Cotton's another guy who's right in the thick of it. I expect him to be the other guy for Utah. A couple of their veterans are in there as well. But so that's what I noticed from Coach Witt. What did you take away from Witt's media availability today?
One thing that really surprised me is how much he praised Dallin Bentley. He said that Bentley has been playing his best football that he's ever played since, coming to the program. And, it seems like for a tight end room that we didn't really know what to make of outside of Landon King, that between Bentley and Hunter Andrews is shaping up to be something pretty solid for Dampier to use for his passing game, and obviously the blocking from the tight end perspective is still to be determined, but these guys are all great receivers, and necessarily when you have a quarterback who is as mobile as Dampier, you don't necessarily need a tight end blocking because you don't need that extra protection. You can just get out and make something out of nothing. And so Dallin Bentley was one name that he mentioned that I was really surprised about, but I'm glad to see that he's doing well. And then I would also, Coach Witt didn't mention it, but Dylan Curtis, we got to see him kick a field goal today. I expect him fully to be the top kicker on the
freshman
team.
from Murray.
Yeah, number one kicking prospect in the nation. And so I think he proved it in the one kick he made. It was, I think it's close to a 50-yarder. And so, and then afterwards, all the players, celebrated with him. So that was pretty cool to see. But no, he is as advertised as well. And I think that's the main thing to take away from camp so far is that the guys who have come in are as advertised. And I don't think I think that's something that you want to hear, especially considering what they did at their previous schools or what they did in high school. And so it's just a great atmosphere surrounding the team. And you can see it in Coach Witt's face. He's just completely rejuvenated.
It seems like it. It seems like he's rejuvenated. This team is fired up. The momentum, the energy is fantastic with this Utah squad. So really excited to see what they can do and put together. And also excited to talk about another player who's starting to put together a pretty good spring. We're going to tell you who he is in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. This is a surprising insight. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and just get to save more too. It's also that all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. It's also that easy collaboration. Managing money with your partners is smoother than ever. You can track and share personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with a Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps, no spaces at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps, no spaces for half off your first year with Monarch Money today. Elijah, another individual who sounds like is standing out and making plays is Landon King, based on several reports. And even Coach Witt commented on what he's seeing from King. What did you see from King today? And we mentioned the long pass he caught from Wilson too.
Yeah, King, from main thing I took away from his interview is that he's really taking ownership of his new role as a leader on the team. it's funny to think how he all of a sudden is now one of the veterans on the team because they've gotten so much younger, and so many new
Yep.
faces, and so he's really taken on the leadership role of the team. And I mean, for what we expected him to produce last year, I think he's going to do this year. Obviously we know he's an incredibly talented wide receiver. He can play out wide if you wanted to.
Mhm.
He's that talented, and so and Whit made the distinction that he's not really a hand on the ground tight end, and he's not really a full lineup out wide tight end. But I think he could be a lineup out wide kind of guy. But I think finding that middle ground where he fits is one thing that Whit really hammered down. And I think that's what they're doing this camp. And he seems to be all for it. One thing I like that he said is someone asked, I think it was Furlan asked why he decided to stay in Utah when he could have easily transferred and gone somewhere else where there's like a surefire quarterback and whatever. He's like, because it's Utah. I love this program, and so he's fully bought in. He is really, I think he's really ready to take the number one spot.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, so far, based on what we've seen with his connection with Isaac and with Dampier, I think that he has a nice rapport with both quarterbacks, which is good to have because you never know what happens nowadays, especially with Utah football.
Yeah.
But he really is someone who has grown into his role with the team. And I really do think that being named on the leadership council has really helped his confidence. And so I'm excited to see what he can do as spring camp goes on. And I think he really harped on making sure that his stats don't really matter, but as long as the team can make it to the playoffs, he's like, I don't care what I do or what I don't do. As long as we make the playoffs, I'll do whatever it takes to get us there.
Which has me incredibly excited. That's his mindset, and the fact that he's back with Utah. I didn't sell my Landon King stock yet, and I'm not planning to. Think he's going to have a monstrous season. Elijah, final guy I want to touch on. We led the show with him last week. It sounds like there were just some new faces that took the spotlight a little bit, but still sounds like based on multiple reports, Nate Johnson is still going to be a guy involved with this Utah team. And Coach Whittingham made some comments about that too. I know.
Yeah, he's really fully embraced his Swiss Army knife, um, position on the team. He was asked why he decided to come back to Utah, and he was like, "Because I'm going to be a Swiss Army knife. That's what I want to
Mhm.
be. I want to be the athlete. And that's a wonderful mindset change from
Mhm.
when he was with us the first time around because he wanted to be a quarterback. He was like, I want to be a quarterback. I'm not going to be a wide receiver. I'm not going to be a running back. I'm going to be a quarterback. And so that's why he went to Vanderbilt to try and be a quarterback, and they did not use him right. And so now he's embracing his athlete role, and I think he is absolutely suited for it. He is able to do pretty much anything on the field. Put him out wide, he'll catch. Put him in the backfield, he'll run. And while we haven't seen much of him throwing the ball, actually, I don't think we've seen any of him throwing the ball. I think obviously we know he can do that too.
Mhm.
Um, and he has a similar skill set to Dampier, so it would make sense to use him as a quarterback if anything, you know, happened. Sadly, um, but no, I think he is fully, embraced his role. And I think that's what's helped him the most flourish in this camp, and he just seems super happy to be back. And I also am, I mean, what we saw from him last week, he just continued this week. He is super explosive, especially in the ways that they're using him. He is incredibly active, an active part of this offense in ways that I can't say. But I am really excited to see how they continue to implement him in the game plan because it is kind of a balancing act having
Mhm.
two players with the same abilities, who could potentially play the same position. And
Mhm.
so that's something that Beck has to deal with. And I think he's doing a wonderful job implementing the two in the same schemes and the same offense. And I'm really excited to see like as camp goes on, if there's any new ways that they can use him, because I'm sure there are. He's so versatile, and how he improves on the ways that I have already seen them use his abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's exciting what this Utah team's putting together. However, Nate Johnson factors into it, how the rest of the pieces factor into it. Going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Elijah, thank you so much for making the time to come on, man. You do a great job of breaking down everything you saw today. And please tell everyone where they can find more of your content at.
Yeah, so you can go to my Twitter or X at Elijah G. Murray. I post all of my post-practice interviews there. And I also just created an Instagram account to post my videos as well for your guys' convenience. Is also at Elijah G. Murray. So you can follow me at both those places. I'll be posting up until the end of spring camp when there's nothing else to post. And so just follow me over there. And I appreciate you guys for supporting me, and I'm really excited to bring you guys more content as camp continues.
Doing a great job, Elijah. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Anytime.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. Hope you'll join us tomorrow as we'll continue to break down the latest in Utah athletics.